Hey everyone, thanks for joining us at Wave Podcast. So Wave's tied to the Ride the Wave Foundation. We empower people by providing free training to people seeking purpose. So anyone that's homeless, going through a hard time on the street, they could come in, get practical training, business type skills like how to find a purpose, positive leadership, mental health strategies. And on the flip side, providing training to people in middle to upper class to have the skills to be able to approach people in the streets they normally wouldn't. I'm Jeff Fisher. Let's ride the wave. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us at the Wave Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Fisher.
And I'm Mark Robinson, your co-host.
Mark, what's happening, buddy? Good to see you.
Likewise.
So with us today is a friend, Dr. Matt McNeil. So I had met Matt, he's my chiropractor. 100% chiropractor in Rockaway, New Jersey. Really great spot. Somebody that is a healer, a really good person, very high energy, and I'm glad he's on today. So, Dr. Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely.
And Mark.
Likewise.
Yeah, and like I said, immediately when I went the first consultation and met you, your energy and the way you explain things was really great. So I feel like there at 100%, it's not just a boring office where you go and have to sit and then go in where somebody doesn't really explain much to you. It's much more, a little bit like a spa. It smells good in there. You go in, everybody is really uplifting, very friendly, stuff like that. So I think that it's not just the adjustments. It's much more than that, especially nowadays. There's so much going on. People could be sad or depressed, but there's an atmosphere that you guys have there. So, yeah, I definitely wanted you to come on the show. And again, thank you for being on.
Oh, likewise. So grateful I can be here. And I've loved getting to be your chiropractor and get to know you and your beautiful wife. Take care of both you guys. And thank you. Yeah, we work really hard to create a space for healing. And for healing to be possible, right? We're mind, body, soul. We talked a little bit about this before we even started today.
Yeah.
And I believe that what we do in our office is unique from what most offices provide, because we began with the fundamentals of what do you need to really thrive as a human. And a huge part of that is to be seen as a human, not to be seen as a number or some of that cold way that many offices can feel.
Yeah, I get it. Really sort of an assembly line of we need to get this amount of patients out to make this money, so we'll do quick adjustments and just let them leave. It's much more than that.
Yeah, we want to get to know you as a human and to see you fully as the human that you are, so we can get to the bottom of what's holding you back and then actually allow your life to transform.
That's amazing. And what made you get back into being a chiropractor? Or tell me about yourself, your life, wherever you want to start. Your journey to get there.
Okay. So, well, I was born in Massachusetts, a little town called Medway, about an hour outside of Boston, and had the privilege of going to school in Connecticut, where I was a college rower.
Where in Connecticut?
Fairfield, Connecticut.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice.
And it was a great university, great experience being a rower. And I was actually on track to be a history teacher. I wanted to teach high school history. Okay. And as I was finishing my master's degree, I was also rowing in my post-grad years to see how competitive I could be as a rower. And I had a major car accident, actually.
Oh, no way.
And it led to me needing to go see a chiropractor. Or it gave me a fork in the road where I had to make a decision.
What type of accident?
So it was a motor vehicle accident. I impacted another vehicle that had run a red light. And fortunately, nobody was catastrophically injured, but I was definitely injured after it. It inhibited my ability to continue to compete as a rower. And it put me on the path to make a decision. And in fact, it's a decision that so many patients who come to me now are in the midst of making, where they have a major problem and they have a lot of musculoskeletal pain and also some deficit in the function of their body. And their general portal into the how do I get help pathway is the medical system. And usually that takes them into some type of situation where they end up in front of an orthopedic surgeon. And I was 23 years old, and an orthopedic surgeon, I had to wait actually 6 months between my MRI and my consultation with him to even know what I could do, and how I could move forward. And his answer was extremely brief. His visit was very brief, and his only answer was, "You're going to need surgery. Maybe we could manage this with some PT, but then you're going to need surgery."
What exactly was the injury? It was broken.
I had herniated L4 and L5, the discs at the lower portion of my spine.
Okay.
And I was having sciatic pain running down both legs into the feet, and I couldn't bend, I couldn't exercise. I was having a lot of trouble. And fortunately for me, my path to chiropractic had actually begun long before I ever knew about chiropractic. And it began as a college athlete, where I had this great coach, Brian Pape, who had the chance to train with the national team for a little while, and then he came back. So he was my coach for 1 year. He took time off, and then he came back a following season. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, Brian, what did you learn at the national team training center? What's something that you can pass on to us?" And interestingly, I thought it was going to be technique or something about a training cycle or a way that you could prepare your body to perform at a better level. And he said, "You need to eat more vegetables." And I said, "Oh, that's
Really?
interesting."
Out of all the things.
Out of all the things. And so fortunately, I was on the meal plan at the dining hall in college. So it was actually quite easy for me to just add, and this was what he said. He said, "Add one salad to your breakfast, to your lunch, and one salad to your dinner. Don't change anything else."
Because that's tough at that age, especially to eat
Exactly.
vegetables. I don't know if I'd be able to do it.
Yeah, right. But he also gave me such actionable advice of, all you need to do is add to what you already do. He didn't tell me stop eating ice cream or don't have beer on Friday or on Saturday night after the race with your boys. Right? He didn't do anything that was going to be a absolutely no.
So
right?
there's atomic habits.
Take this out, take that out. Stop doing that, and
just go slow, right? Like slow add-on steps and then add a little more.
That's
sort
right.
of the atomic habits, kind of that latest science of, instead of doing 10 push-ups right away every day, do just one if you don't do any. And then next week, do 2.
Yes.
Next week, do 3 each day for a week. And then before you know it, you're up to 50 push-ups, but you've instilled a really great habit. It's because you're more likely to not do 10 right off the bat because you want to avoid the pain, or you're just, oh no, 10. Was it that? Did he have you add a little bit slow more to the plate like that? Or he just said, just add some, keep it like that?
Yeah. Actually, all Brian said was just make sure you're adding vegetables to what you're eating. And so I began simple there, enough. Very simple. And that got the wheels turning in my head of food is fuel. That simple principle of food is your fuel really changed my perspective. And then through a series of books that I read and documentaries that I watched, it was all very organic, and it began slowly. This was my senior year of college when Brian came back. And by the time I was in grad school, I went right into grad school after finishing undergrad. It was like a 5th-year master's for the master's in education. And so as I was making that transition, I really started to dive in on the paleo diet. And essentially the paleo diet is this idea that we were evolutionarily meant to eat particular foods that we had access to as hunter-gatherers. So meat, vegetables, fruit, nuts and seeds, and to avoid most of those new foods that we have created, manufactured, all the processed food that we have access to, and even some of the more recent foods that we've figured out how to create that aren't quite processed food, but still something like bread and things with gluten and ideas like that. So really, Brian started me with the most simple principle. Just add more vegetables to what you eat. And that opened the door to, okay, what else could I tweak here? How could I get better performance out of my body by what I put into it?
Right.
And ultimately, that was one pathway, so nutrition. And then also the physical training I was doing as an athlete to be as competitive as possible. I was seeking, how can I train as effectively as possible?
Right.
And so I had the physical training side, I had the nutritional side, and implicit in the paleo principle is this idea that the human body is meant to thrive. That if we have a blueprint, our DNA, that's expecting particular building materials in order to build the human body. And if we can provide those proper nutrients to the body, then the genetics of the body are going to be able to actually turn that into a healthy, thriving human. Right. And when we have a mismatch between the materials we give the body and the blueprint the body is going to follow, then all of a sudden we have a mismatch and we get chronic disease and all the things that plague the standard American today. This principle, this concept was extremely appealing and made sense. It was congruent with me.
Right.
And so when I was now in my chiropractor's office, if we skip forward a little further in the story, when I was in my chiropractor's office, because I had fundamentally made the decision, I know my body can heal. And when that surgeon told me that you're going to need some outside-in intervention at 23 or you'll never be able to row again, there was a inner knowing that said, there is an ability for my body to do this. Yeah. I need to figure out how to unlock that, which, thank God, chiropractic entered into the picture. And I had a wonderful chiropractor, Dr. Adam Proper, up in Westport, Connecticut. And he introduced me to the philosophy of chiropractic, not only the artistry of chiropractic, but the philosophy. And that's what hooked me.
Yeah, I'd be interested in what the philosophy would be behind that, because for anyone that doesn't know about chiropractic, what do you say? Chiropractic, sorry. Or might have a little bit of a stigmatism, or not stigmatism.
I mean, there's
like
certainly
a certain perception of what it would be, or maybe it's not legit, certain things like that. I hear that sometimes. So what is the philosophy behind?
Great. Yeah. At the core of chiropractic is the philosophy that the body is meant to thrive. And there are 33 chiropractic principles that were recorded early on in the development of chiropractic as a discipline.
Yeah.
And the major premise, the first principle upon which the rest of chiropractic philosophy is based is there is a, quote, there is a universal intelligence in all matter, continuously giving to it all of its properties and actions.
Interesting.
Thus maintaining it in existence. What this principle means is that superior to the matter is spirit and / intelligence.
So this is the core philosophy of chiropractic.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is the heart and soul of what chiropractic is. And this is the guiding principle from the rest of the other 32 principles follow as a logical deduction from that major premise. So the major premise is there is intelligence that guides and shapes matter, which actually sounds a lot like quantum physics today, describing that at the base level, it's all energy, that matter and energy are interchangeable, and that there's actually this energetic field that is what maintains and gives the unique properties to the matter that we experience our reality through. What's really cool is chiropractic was established in 1895. So long before even Einsteinian physics had a place of playing out, let alone the quantum, which followed Einstein.
Does that connect to any meridians or any type of pressure points in the body as well? Did they take anything from any other culture and bring it in as well? Or was it formed new?
That's like a great question. I don't specifically know what level of influence Eastern philosophy had on chiropractic. To the best of my knowledge, D.D. Palmer is the founder of chiropractic. And I don't believe that D.D. had individual experience in the East. Okay. His son, B.J., who is referred to as the developer of chiropractic. So there's the founder and then the developer. And so B.J. took his father's ideas and really brought them forward and took the university that his father had founded in Davenport, Iowa, and really took it to a legitimate level. Okay. And BJ actually spent quite a bit of time in India and in China. And I know he read deeply of those works. What I think is most likely is that there is a resonance, right?
Yeah.
That there is an understanding from the Eastern side of how the body is energetically aligned, and that there are these energetic meridians through the body, which is what acupuncture works with. Mm-hmm. I believe that what Didi was picking up on and what early chiropractic was picking up on was that same truth, and they were explaining it in their own way. I don't know if there was necessarily one fed the other, but maybe it was both practices were picking up on one truth underneath it all.
Right. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Nice. When those adjustments, like to my neck, because I've noticed the difference. I have less neck pain. I've been getting in shape too. Self-care is really important. I think that investing in that, I wish I could it's so cliche to tell people that too. You know, when you're like, oh yeah, treat yourself first, make sure you're in shape, and then you'll be better facing other people. But it's so true.
Absolutely.
And it's so true. When you do one of those adjustments on the neck,
sir.
What's exactly happening there? I mean, what's going on with the muscles, the bones, that adjustment, jolting it in with the cracking and things like that? Could you get into sort of what the mechanics of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a good way to think about all this is that we are mind, body, soul, right? And you can absolutely describe the adjustment from a material perspective, right? Somebody has a musculoskeletal complaint. They have the need for healing in a very real way, right? Mm-hmm. There's some physiological injury, and you can see the adjustment from that perspective. And that would be at one time, a complete view of what the adjustment is. However, there's still so much more. There's the mind and the spirit as well. Yeah. The adjustment actually is working with all three aspects of who we are as a human. Now, to describe the adjustment most simply, I'll stick to the material and keep in mind that D.D. Palmer said that chiropractic is about uniting man the spiritual with man the physical. Mm-hmm. So that is at play at the highest level with what's going on with the adjustment. That you have, back to the major premise, there's an innate intelligence in all of us. Mm-hmm. There is a universal intelligence that organizes the universe, right, and organizes all matter. But then within one living being, there is what is referred to as the innate intelligence. And my understanding of chiropractic philosophy is that is analogous to the individual soul. So what many traditions will call the soul, chiropractic is referring to as the innate intelligence. Okay. And so all three of us have our own innate intelligence.
Very interesting, right? What do you think, Mark? Right? Did you know any of this?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
You know, people just will think, oh yeah, you go on a table and just get cracked, and no, I feel okay and I got to go back. But there's a whole other aspect to it. Mm-hmm.
Like me, I know a little bit about like the acupuncture and I know certain, I'm not going to say certain, I know majority of the pressure points, but I know it's a whole lot that I still need to learn.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And then the actual chiropractic aspect, that as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So that it's not just putting something in place, moving a bone or a muscle. Yes. It's much more components to that. I'm sure the immune system plays into it, and nerves. You were showing the nerves. Absolutely. In a great way.
So the nerves are at the center of what chiropractors are focused on. So again, if we're going to limit it just to the material aspect of it, which is probably the easiest way to describe what the adjustment is, right? Mm-hmm. However, we know that what is that doing when we adjust the human? Mm-hmm. Well, it's actually allowing their soul, their innate intelligence to express more perfectly through that matter. Okay. And that is the driving force that leads to all healing. And that makes sense even outside of chiropractic philosophy, that if you break a bone, right, so you break your arm, okay, and now you go to a doctor and they put a cast on it. Right. Well, does that cast heal your bone? No. Right. That cast stabilizes two fractured ends of a bone so that they can be next to each other and stay next to each other.
Helps keep it in place so it can heal.
Exactly, Mark. And then what actually does the healing?
The body, right? I know it's platelets, right? And if you cut your hand or something, the bone, I don't know.
The mind first, then the body, because the mind has to send the signals to the body. Okay, we have a cast on. We need to connect. We need to get back to how we were before we got injured. I mean, those signals from the injury to the mind to the body.
So it's control center. And
Right.
then,
Yes, sir.
is he right?
You guys nailed it. That's exactly it. Our brain is the antenna
Right.
for our innate intelligence, for our soul to interface through, right? That's the material energetic junction right there. And when we think about healing, we don't have much of that in society. We don't have a paradigm for healing in the medical system. And another early quote from Didi, or actually, I believe this one's BJ. BJ said that medicine is the study of disease and the cause of death. Chiropractic is the study of health and the cause of life.
I like that.
And to many, that sounds like I'm saying the same thing, just using different words. However, it's actually opposite
Completely different.
concepts.
Words matter. Words matter. And
Yes.
I think that saying that, people are more likely to heal if they believe it.
Absolutely. And again, that goes back to what you first said about your experience when you came into 100% chiropractic, that there was something different.
And can you go through the process from beginning it? Because a lot of the times I've gone to a chiropractor before. I just go in, talk, maybe fill out some paperwork. I've even not gotten x-rays and then just get adjustments. But then eventually the adjustments are once a month and they're the same every time. And I wasn't really getting anything out of it. But with you guys, it really is, timing wise, the way you have it structured, go into the room, you have the x-rays laid out with 3D image. You go much more in depth when it comes to explaining things, which I'm the type of person that I love. Gavin, who my personal trainer at Wolf Gym in the town, maybe Bud Lake, I can't remember. I think Mount Olive. He's a great young kid and he's really smart too. So I like when people explain and go a little bit further instead of just, have a nice day.
Absolutely. Education is key.
Yeah, education, exactly.
As we spoke about earlier, I almost became a history teacher. And when I had made that transition to go from I'm pursuing teaching to I'm pursuing becoming a chiropractor, I was actually praying the morning of my first day of classes at chiropractic school down in Georgia. And I asked God, I said, hey, give me a sign that I'm on the path.
Yeah.
Because I just got a master's degree. And I'm not about to use it. And so God, tell me if getting this doctorate makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And I had prayed a lot about it up to that point, obviously. And I was just double checking. And the first class of my first day of chiropractic school was healthcare terminology. So you're learning all the Latin roots and prefixes. When you hear some word like osteoarthritis, or you hear some word, right, that's some medical nomenclature, you're like, what the heck does that mean, right? Well, this is the class that teaches you how to decode the Latin, essentially, right? And the professor has on the board written, doctor equals teacher. And the professor proceeds to say, in Latin, the word doctor means teacher.
Wow.
And I just sat back and I said, God, thank you. That was exactly what I needed to hear. I am on the path. I am getting to be a teacher. And now, fast forward all those years later, now I'm actually a chiropractor, and I'm a chiropractor out in Rockaway. And so our whole process is about education. And just like you were saying, Jeff, it goes so much further when you know the why. And so our process, day one, is called our discovery. And so it's all about discovering what's going on with you. And so many times when you go to a medical doctor or even another chiropractor, they're there to ask you, what's the main question they're going to ask you?
How are you feeling? Or is there pain anywhere? Just about yourself that way, your body.
Exactly.
Do you have any injuries? How can we work on
medical history, maybe things like that.
Exactly. Right. And when you take a health history, you are asking that main question. Why are you here? Right? What made you come to me? Because people don't like going to doctors, right? People have families and work, and they'd rather be hanging out watching Netflix or something, right? Rather than just going to a doctor's office. So they're always trying to figure out, why'd you come here? And we ask that, right? Well, what's going on? We call that your major concern. And so that is, maybe somebody comes in for low back pain or migraines or neck pain or irritable bowel or whatever they are presenting with, it's usually a musculoskeletal issue, right? Maybe it's a visceral issue as well, right? Something wrong with their organ systems or their hormone balance in their body. But they're coming to us for ultimately a physical issue. Very rare is the patient who comes in who says, I want my innate intelligence to be able to flow through my body and allow for the perfection of my experience on this planet. Now, maybe some of those people will come through, and that's a great thing when we get them. But most people are coming in for the same reason I went to my first chiropractor. I wasn't going for spiritual enlightenment. I was going because my low back hurt and it ran down my legs into my feet and I couldn't work out anymore. Right? So I was going for a very physical, natural reason. And so when we speak to people, we find out, why are you here? Then we go above and beyond that too. And we say, what are your health goals? So if, Mark, your migraines went away, what would then become possible for you? And that opening of possibility is what it really is about. Because if all you're trying to do is get rid of a symptom, well, some other doctor could give you a bunch of drugs.
I don't know if you remember, I came in and I was shocked. My shoulder pain, even though it's up and down, comes back, but there was a period of time where it was completely gone. And I didn't think that was possible.
That's right. And you probably didn't think it was coming from your neck.
No, I mean, from driving on the console a decent amount, I get that. And then the desk. So that pressure of having that. And I've always had that in the shoulder, but there's most definitely, I cannot deny that there's been relief.
Yeah. And so much of what we do when a patient comes in is we figure out, why are you here? And then what would actually change in your life if that changed, right? Because pain is not the problem people face. Now, pain sucks. Nobody wants it. I didn't want it when I had it. I don't want anybody to experience it. But that's not really the problem they face. It's, the pain holds me back. In my case, the pain held me back from being a rower and seeing how competitive I could be as an athlete. I couldn't compete. I was in too much pain. I couldn't train hard. And so what I was really missing was that self-actualization, that personal development and growth of how great could I be as a rower? That's what was on the other side of that pain. And so as a chiropractor, we work really strongly to actually start to access that higher level, because that's the why that's going to push that person through to really heal. We also do, in terms of exam, we do x-rays and we do a 3D body scan.
Yeah.
Are the big parts of our exam on day one.
It's funny that you mentioned that, not to cut you off, but I think that's what I need.
That's what you need?
Like a MRI, CAT scan, because I have my acromion bone right here on my shoulder is kind of like the tip of it. It's out of place. It's pointed up. And if if I was to take my jacket off and you was to feel, you can feel the difference. And sometimes I get sensations going from my head all the way down to two fingers. Sometimes it's numbing sensation. Sometimes it's sharp pains. And
Are you lefty or righty?
I right-handed.
You're right-handed.
But I throw football with my left.
You know, it's weird. He says that. I do everything with my right hand. The only thing I do with my left is shoot a basketball. It was weird. When I was a kid, I just naturally shot with my left hand. Other than that, I even dribble better with my right if I play.
Yeah, I dribble. If I was to play basketball, I would shoot with my right.
Yeah.
Drawing and writing, I do with my right. Throwing a football, I throw with my left.
Oh, that's funny.
This is weird to me.
Yeah, it's cool how we can wire ourselves up, right? With
Well, you have to go to Dr. Matt to
ambidextrous,
get in place.
They call it, right?
Yeah.
Ambidextrous, southpaw.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I need. I'm coming in.
I mean, it's definitely those X-rays and the 3D images, and then those, the next step with the explanations and getting in depth with that is a really, I think, a good process. Not to cut you off from what you were saying about the process, or to jump ahead, but so you take the images,
yes,
and then.
And so, right, we take the images, and then on your following visit, we call it your empowerment session. And that's all about actually empowering you with new knowledge of your body is meant to thrive. We start to teach the chiropractic philosophy that not simply are you here to get out of pain, but you're actually here to grow as a human. so that you can play with your children again, because that low back pain that stops you from picking up your newborn baby, right? Whatever that might have been that we talked about on day one, maybe throwing a football. It's difficult to throw a football when the last 2 digits of my hand are numb. And now what does that allow you to do? It allows me to engage more with my community. It allows me to engage with my family. It allows me to be more of who I am. We talk to you about that. And then we also educate you on a healthy spine is aligned this way.
Yeah.
And your spine is aligned this way. And I always say it's like show and tell. I'm going to show you the picture, and you're going to tell me that exactly where the picture doesn't look right is where your problems are starting from. And those nerves that come out of your spine are the nerves that control your arms and your legs and your organs and your muscles,
right,
and control what we feel. And so when we have pressure on those nerves because our spine's misaligned, our body doesn't work the way that it's supposed to. It doesn't feel the way that it's supposed to. It doesn't move the way that it's supposed to. And then we actually give you a program that allows you to correct those misalignments and have a spine that is organized appropriately.
Yeah, I found it fascinating the way you described the tube aspect and actually showed the side view with the nerve going through and how that could get kind of pinched or tightened up through it not being straight.
Absolutely. Yeah. And whenever you have pressure on a nerve, that's what a chiropractor is working with. So where we are adjusting, wherever you have a subluxation, wherever you have pressure on a nerve, because when you have pressure on a nerve, it interferes with the information between your brain and your body. So that brain-body connection, right? We talk a lot about that in the gym and in so many other ways. What's that mind-body connection? Well, literally, your mind-body connection is your spinal cord and nerves. So as a chiropractor, we want to make sure that that pathway is free of interference. So that's what we do as a chiropractor. That's the what we do. The why we do it goes back to the philosophy that there is a universal intelligence, there is an innate intelligence within each being that is organizing that body and allowing it to thrive. If there's pressure on those nerves, that innate intelligence can't do its job appropriately. It's sending the right message from the brain, make sure the heart is beating this hard. But if that nerve between the brain and the heart is subluxated, that message doesn't get through appropriately, right? It's like the game we played growing up, telephone, right? You whisper the word in the circle, it's not appropriate at the end because there's interference.
That's a good way of describing it.
It's not perfect transmission.
Yeah.
And our ultimate goal is we want that perfect transmission throughout your body, which is why I adjusted my son the day he was born. Not because he had back pain. Right? He was hours old. He had no pain. Though he still had a nervous system that needed to be tuned so that there was no interference in how his brain was communicating with his body. And that's why I've adjusted patients with cancer. That's why I've adjusted patients who are terminal. That's why I've adjusted patients who are not going to be able to get that perfect ideal curvature in their neck and low back and perfectly straight from the front.
Do you have a miracle recovery? I saw a testimony that was really a beautiful testimony that I read on the wall that you had up on
one of our
screen.
patients of the month.
But it was a military. It was a guy that was in the military, really a lot of back issues, changed his whole life. How often does something like that happen? And do you have a personal story of somebody that you helped out and they were just so thrilled? And,
I mean, there's so many stories.
Good.
One cool one that I can share is there was a husband and wife who came in, and I'm just not going to use names for privacy. I'll make up names. We'll call them Mike and Sally. All right, cool. And Mike and Sally came in, and Mike loved to lift weights. He very strong guy, liked to back squat, deadlift, and he couldn't squat anymore, couldn't deadlift anymore because he had a herniated disc. He had a herniated disc at L5. His wife Sally had a big scoliosis in her low back, and they had been trying to conceive. They had been unsuccessful being able to actually conceive, and they had gone through multiple different interventions, right? They had tried all the natural ways, they were trying some IVF, and to no avail. And it was honestly hard for them. And when they came to us, one of the things like we said, when we do our health history and when we do that discovery session with people, we dig in and we say, what do you really want out of this? And they shared that they had been really frustrated that they couldn't get pregnant. And why was Mike there? Low back pain on the surface. What did Mike really want? To be able to work out again, to feel strong again, to feel vital again, to feel alive again, to feel a man again. What did Mike really, really, really want that he didn't even know he wanted most? To be a dad.
Yeah.
Okay, what did Sally want? She didn't want her pain. She wanted to lose a little bit of weight. But what did she really want? She wanted to be loved. She wanted to be able to bring life. We started taking care of both husband and wife, and we were able to correct Sally's scoliosis. We were able to correct Mike's herniated disc. And now we actually get to adjust their newborn baby as well.
They were able to
conceive,
have the process.
Absolutely.
And that's beautiful. And I know that there's many more.
Oh, yeah, there's tons. I mean, my wife is my strongest why of chiropractic. So my wife was diagnosed when I was in chiropractic school. She was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a autoimmune condition where the body is actually destroying the spinal cord. And it is devastating. It's a devastating autoimmune condition that ultimately will lead to death. It can lead to organ failure. And thank God I was in chiropractic school. Thank God I had the mentors in the path that I was on, because at the core of everything, I had a philosophy. The body is made to heal.
Yep.
And that we're not meant to suffer. We're not meant to be sick. And just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. And if you walk through society, you go through the mall down the road from us here, you're going to see a lot of things that are common, but none of it's normal.
Right.
And what we knew was that my wife could heal. And I had also been exposed, because when you are seeking information about how do people heal naturally, I had already been doing a lot of work, and I had already found out about this woman, Terry Walls, who's a medical doctor as well as a PhD. And so she has a research lab out in Iowa, and she was herself diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and went the traditional medical pathway. She's a medical doctor, so she did the drugs and the immunosuppressive drugs, and everything got worse. Just like they say, an autoimmune condition is forever, and the best that medicine can do is to manage the symptoms and to try to minimize the decline, right? To control essentially the crash landing. They're trying to control that crash landing as long as possible, so that maybe you're old and I guess it just made sense. You were 70, it was your time.
Yeah.
And that's not to speak ill of the medical field. I think it's a lot of people who are doing their very best. I think unfortunately they've been given a set of tools that have a lot of limitations, and we've lived in a world structured with a paradigm that doesn't even acknowledge those limitations. And I would say that most people have a belief in their mind of, if I go to CVS, they have the thing I need there. Somewhere in that building is some pill or lotion or something. There's something in there on one of those shelves, and it's gonna fix my problem, right? Maybe it's behind the counter. The person in the white coat has to give it to me, or maybe I can just grab it. It's in one of these boxes.
We have a lot of short-term things in our society, right? Short-term clicks, gratification, you know.
Yeah, me, I don't like take medicine. Like the last medicine that I took, I got a bad reaction to it, so I was like, nah, taking medicine is not for me, because I've never took medicine growing up. I mean, it wasn't until I was at a South Church, and when I first came to Morristown, dealing with my mental issues, stuff like that, whatever, because I had a traumatic incident before I came to Morristown. So went to the doctor to try, health services to try to help me deal with.
Take medication every day.
Yeah.
That's all. So I could, I mean, not understanding your situation, but, I think I get
So treatment. It was like, they put me on medicine. First time I started taking it, it was all right. But it was like, they switched my medicine. And then when they switched it, they switched me to something called Brimarole. And when I took it, one day I was in my room, I took it, drank some water, whatever. I laid down, but then I had to go to the bathroom. I get up, go to the bathroom. Next thing you know, as I'm walking to the bathroom, I'm hot, cold, shivering, and I felt dizzy, and I couldn't walk, barely.
So you had an adverse reaction, maybe allergic, or I don't know.
I don't know what it was, but it was like I really wanted to call, the ambulance, go to the hospital, but I thought I'd use the bathroom. I made it to the bathroom, used the bathroom, whatever, went back, laid down, whatever, and it was like, I felt okay. And then it was like, when I woke up the next morning, I'm like, I looked at the medicine bottle, I'm like, yeah, I'm not taking this.
Yeah, you think there's...
I'm not taking this no more.
Yeah, you think that there is that? Like you mentioned, there always is something, whether a pill to slap on something or less of the preventative actions. How much of it also do you think is our bodies not being designed for our lifestyle? So one of the things that was eye-opening to me, and it was, I think that when you go into the presentation room there, where the screen is, on the wall, the pictures of people from the years texting.
Yes.
Those are young people too, right? Aren't they young? So that is a really going face down and looking at a phone, especially at a young age, really creates that arch. So driving or right hip going and all those things are so unnatural for human beings. So we haven't evolved for our lifestyles.
Right.
And things that we do.
And that takes back to the paleo idea of what should we eat, right? What were we designed to eat and how were we designed to live?
Yeah.
And we need to match those things up. Otherwise, we're going to have a mismatch in the outcome of our body, right? And I would completely agree with that, right? That's been seen to be at the core of many autoimmune conditions and whatnot.
Yeah.
And as chiropractors, we want you to live as naturally as possible, right? Because you're not having whatever challenge to your health you're having because you have a shortage of some pharmaceutical in your body, right? It's like, you have fundamentally something is not going right in your body. And you can take two approaches. You can take the medical approach, and this isn't to demean the medical approach, but there are shortcomings to it, that you can attempt to manipulate the physiology of the body from some outside in intervention. And that may or may not work. The chiropractic approach to that would be, well, we can't possibly know what your physiology needs to do on a moment-to-moment basis, the changes it needs to make. For example, right? Like, what should your blood pressure be right now? Probably.
I don't even know what it should be.
Probably 120 over 80, right? Like, that's a standard, right? And
I should know that.
But should it be that if you're in the middle of 10 heavy back squats in a row? No, your blood pressure should be up.
Isn't it 170 or 180 roughly working out a good range? Or one... Am I way off on that? That
is kind of high. That would not be good. But
all right, don't mind me.
But the point of why I bring these things up is that you're supposed to change on a moment-to-moment basis, right? Like, how much insulin should your body be making? Well, nobody really knows the answer, but your pancreas and your brain figure it out really well together.
Yeah.
And so the chiropractic approach would be, well, let's just make sure your brain and body are communicating, and your body will figure that part out, right? And that goes back to this idea that there is an intelligence guiding the behavior of your body, rather than, oh, your body is just this broken machine and let's change the oil in it, or let's put a new battery in it, or let's, whatever modification we're going to make to the body. And in my wife's example, when she was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, we were able to take the natural approach to healing. And so she received amazing chiropractic care from our mentor, Dr. Deegan. He's a great chiropractor down in Smyrna, Georgia. And Dr. Deegan took care of Nicole as her body healed. And we also did Terry Walls. I never finished the story there, but Terry went down the traditional medical pathway, kept getting sicker, ended up ultimately in a recumbent wheelchair that was motorized because she was losing motor function of her body. And she had decided at that point she wasn't ready to die. She still had 2 young girls and her wife that she was married to, and she wasn't ready to leave her family. I think she was in her late 40s at that time. And she decided what she was doing obviously wasn't working. She had been doing it for years and it just kept getting worse. And so she used her education to actually start to figure out on a nutritional level, what is my body missing on a cellular nutrition level that it needs in order to function properly. And so not to bog down in the details, but she really dove in on what is needed for the mitochondria of your cell to work appropriately. And then she ended up actually having a lot of success. Her body started to heal. She started to turn things around in her own life. And then she changed her research lab over to be specific for multiple sclerosis and her nutritional intervention. And she received, as you might imagine, a lot of flack from the medical community. Her TED Talk actually got banned, but it was so viewed prior to its banning that people had reposted it under some other account, and there were millions of views. And every time they would delete one, another would pop up and it would get lots of views. And it ultimately got reinstated on the TED website because it was so profound. And
what would be the reason why they would be taking it down? I mean, just because it didn't fall into what they want, or it wasn't something that was confirmed or fully researched. Why would they even do that if it's something that is like a breakthrough like that?
Yeah, there could be a lot of reasons, but maybe the cynical answer might be it's bad for business, right? Maybe the more charitable interpretation might be that, like you said, maybe there wasn't enough research to back it, or whatnot. Yeah, right. Ultimately, the medical community. I
mean, when you have an industry, and not to get into like too deep in that kind of stuff, but yeah, I mean, it does make sense when you have pharmaceutical industry making as much money as they do to have that revolving door.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that people just having an understanding of that system is set up for there's no real incentives to have cures sometimes in some cases. So, it makes sense. So I get it. So that had happened where there was a real something that could prevent and that it was getting taken off. That's unfortunate that happens.
And it's like the old quote, I think it was a Mark Twain quote, right? A lie makes it around the world before truth gets its pants on, right? But ultimately, truth gets out there too, right?
That's so true.
And truth can't be buried.
I never heard that.
That is so true.
And so ultimately, Terry was rewarded for what her research was showing, and so much so to the point that we already had knowledge of her work prior to Nicole's diagnosis. So I started reading her book before we even went in and had it confirmed by the MRI and blood work readings, and so driving into that appointment at the neurologist's office with my wife, we talked and I said, hey, babe, I think what's going to come up is that they're going to diagnose you with multiple sclerosis and we're going to be okay. And I'm already reading Terry's book and here's all this information. And she was actually familiar with Terry's work as well. My wife's very tuned in on nutrition. And Nicole and I got to peace before we even got into that office. And ultimately, the neurologist was a very bright guy. We went to a specialty hospital in Atlanta, all for neurological conditions and spinal cord injury. And Dr. Buckle, great guy, a lot of credit. He knew his stuff and he explained what was going on, and it was exactly what we were expecting. And then he proceeded to roll out the list of drug options that we've got. And it was literally like looking at college brochures, like beautiful, expensive envelopes with pictures and all this stuff. It was high quality marketing information. And I had already done a lot of research. And so I started asking Dr. Buckle, hey, what's the plan? How long do these drugs stay effective? And he said, about 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years if you're lucky. I said, so what happens after that? Well, you need to cycle onto a new drug. And well, are there any complications because of the prior drug? Oh yeah, there are complications. And the second drug doesn't work as well as the first because the first one already your body had adapted to, and now there's complications. So I said, okay, how long does that last? Usually a year or two less. So now we're getting down to like 2 or 3 years or 4 years, maybe if we're lucky, on how long drug 2 works. And we're 28 at the time, my wife and I, when this gets diagnosed. I'm thinking, oh God, before she's even 40, she's on her 3rd or maybe 4th drug. Right. They're all getting less effective. What the hell is going to happen when she's 50? And also these drugs would interfere with her ability to get pregnant and us to be able to start our family. And ultimately we knew that her body was powerful and her body could thrive and her body could heal. And so what we did was we spoke to Dr. Buckle and we said, hey, I really appreciate everything that you've spoken to us about. And I asked a lot about nutrition as well, and a lot about supplementation. And he was very upfront. He said, honestly, I don't know a lot about the nutrition that goes into all this. He said omega-3, there's some research on that, he said vitamin D, there was research on that, but he said, I don't have anything on omega-3, which I had actually read a lot of research. Omega-3 is a powerful nutrient to add in to anybody with neurological issues. But it was interesting. He was very in the lane. He knew everything about the pharmacology, had a sprinkling of nutrition, and that was about it. And we were able to accommodate a plan that everybody was comfortable with, which was we would go no drugs. We would use chiropractic care and the Walls protocol of nutrition And then we would take follow-up MRIs to actually track. And Dr. Buckle, to his credit, was okay with our program and supported us in this program, which honestly, I think he was probably going as close to the line as he was allowed to in his own hospital rules of how you're going to deal with patients. And beautifully, we just saw Nicole's body heal. Each MRI, at first 3 months after, we started to see inflammation in the spinal cord drop. 6 months later, the inflammation was gone. 6 months after that, the spinal cord actually started regenerating the tissue that had broken down. And then a year after that, there was no lesion. Wow. And so we were able to watch Nicole's body absolutely heal. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that is what all humans are capable of. All humans are capable of healing. If you ask most people, or if you ask a medical doctor, how long are autoimmune conditions for? The answer is they're for life. And is there any way to stop an autoimmune condition, to heal an autoimmune condition? And the answer is no. You can treat them, you can manage them. And Nicole was the only patient that I know of at that hospital to be actually removed of their diagnosis.
Wow.
And because there was no lesion anymore. When they kept doing MRIs, once it had healed, there was no even sign that there ever was an injury prior to that.
Wow.
And so they actually changed her diagnosis. And so she doesn't have the autoimmune condition anymore. And what's so cool about that story is also now we have a baby, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I was asking about Junior.
Before the podcast started. And
15 months, right?
Yep, 15 months.
Nice.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Running around, I'm sure. Running around town. Just getting into everything.
It's the coolest.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, congrats.
That's the highlight of our life. And all of that was possible because we knew what the body was capable of. We knew the body was capable of healing. We knew the body's capable of thriving. We knew that when you give the body what it needs, adjustments, proper nutrients, we took the stress that was in our life, we really diminished it. We stopped flying as often. We stopped focusing on the things of the world.
Yeah.
And we started to focus on the things of the soul. And we really did dive in deeper into our marriage and our relationship. And Nicole's body was able to heal. And it continues to be thriving.
Yeah. Instead of going to get medication, going home and popping in his Stouffer's mac and cheese or whatever processed foods and things like that, taking intentional self-care diet, doing that's really great. It's a really good story.
Yeah.
I have a question, a little bit of the culture there.
Yeah,
100%.
fire away. Yeah.
So is it intentional that, because there really is such a positive vibe in there. It really is great. Shout out to Dr. Sarah also, who does a really amazing job. 100%. Again, it's in Rockaway, New Jersey. I recommend it. They also have really great massage therapists you can go to. So after an adjustment, you can get the massage where the areas that you need it after. So they consult directly with the doctors, and it's a very sort of full one-stop shop for that kind of stuff, which is great. So, and the rest of the team, you guys are great. Love you guys. Is that the spirit end, right? That encouragement, that vibe, is that because of the philosophy in chiropractor? Is that intentional to bring everything to one picture and circle? Because those places are missing that component that we were talking about before. So my question is, and it seems like it is it intentional that they're doing that?
Yes.
Keeping that type of culture.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's intentional on many levels. Dr. Sarah Calta is a badass, and she leads a great team. And we do intentionally focus on the philosophy that guides chiropractic. And we both went to a great school. Dr. Sarah and I were actually classmates together at Life University in Atlanta, Georgia, Marietta, Georgia, technically. Well, just outside of
But
Atlanta.
Matt, I got to say to you, man, like, it's more. You're more like you can feel your spirit when you go in there and your energy, and you never know who could go in there. I know that it's natural for people. I'm sure every day you're doing something to get lost in the inertia every day of doing it. But somebody could go in there sad, had a bad day. You never even know if somebody internally wants to take their life that day. And then the way you come across and bring that encouragement and that spirit, you're always upbeat. And that is a really good quality. You're blessed with a gift. You really are. And I noticed that immediately. You know why I signed up?
Why is that?
I'll tell you why I signed up. Because your presentation was really good. So the information that I mentioned before, when we went out after,
Yes.
I went up to you and I asked you a question, and you didn't know the answer and you told me you didn't know. So you didn't BS. And I immediately was like, he's got smart, good energy, presented well, and he's not a liar. And I told Dr. Sarah, I complimented you to this side directly because I was like, he's ethical and he's a really guy. So yeah, I mean, I think that you're a little bit of an exception. I really do. And the staff there.
Beautiful words. And that's so cool. That's what I strive for, honestly, is to approach everybody.
You're a healer, 100%.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll push back on that. You are the healer, right? Your body is what heals. I get to facilitate that healing process. And I do. It is spiritual. It is a gift.
You believe in God, or you're a spiritual person?
Absolutely.
You mentioned before praying, so
yeah,
I'm assuming so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so actually, so I'm raised Catholic. I am Catholic. And in Catholicism, there's conversation about the idea of vocation, that you can have, right? You can have a job, right? You can have a career, and then you can have a vocation. And I truly believe that we're all meant for a vocation.
And like a calling.
That's exactly what it means in Latin. Yeah, vocare is the Latin root, and it means to call forth. And so I do believe that I was called to chiropractic, and chiropractic is spiritual at its core. And that was what we spoke on early, is that yes, you can approach chiropractic from a very mechanistic, physiological, grounded in the matter of the body and what's going on. And that is where most people's consciousness of what chiropractic is, that's where they're at. And that's okay. I'm totally cool with that. In fact, I actually envision this as, imagine you're looking at a cross section of pools dug into the dirt, right? And so you have the physical, the material, then you have the mental, the emotional, and then you have the spiritual, right? So those are your three pools. And each one gets gradually deeper, right? If you're looking at them as a cross section. Right. And so most people are coming in somewhere in that first pool. They want to meet you. Maybe they're at the surface of the pool. Right. My neck hurts. Okay. Right. Maybe they're way down at the bottom of that first physical pool. My neck pain holds me back from being the husband I could be. Right. Okay. Maybe they're even starting to touch into that second pool, the mental emotional. Right. I'm not able to be fully present in my relationships. I'm not able
to the physical.
Due to the physical. Right. And they start to see a bridge, and they see both. And maybe even at the highest level, right? This is now holding me back from being the human that I was born to be on this planet. I believe the job of the chiropractor is to meet people wherever they're at, in whichever pool. Also let them know, hey, there's more pools we could swim in too. And not to push them into it, but when they're ready, hey, we could go over to the mental emotional one and start talking about how this is actually not just helping your neck pain, but it's also helping your suicidality. And that's true. I have a patient that I'm thinking of right now, who's a beautiful soul. Him and his wife both came in for care, and this gentleman told me that he was a little bit depressed, was how he phrased it. A little bit depressed on his first visit, and he had neck pain, and it was hard to do his job. He worked at a computer, and so he had to look down. And this gentleman said that it was also holding him back from exercising and being what he could be in the gym because of this neck pain. And lo and behold, as we go through the process at 100%, not only do we do that initial day where we take care of you and take the x-rays and we communicate about that, as you go through your care, we actually take follow-up x-rays so that you can see how your spine is moving from where it was to the alignment that it should have. Well, with this gentleman, when we were reviewing his second set of x-rays with him and talking to him, he shared with us that he was no longer suicidal. When I asked him, I said, what has gotten better for you now that your neck pain has gotten better? And I'm thinking, I'm lifting in the gym again. I'm able to work longer hours at work without problems. I'm not taking any pharmaceuticals to manage the pain.
Somebody saved a life.
And that's what he shared. He said, I haven't wanted to kill myself for the last 3 months.
Wow. And so that is what?
That was what was at the depth of what was going on for this gentleman. Now, why did he show up? Because he had a little bit of depression and some neck pain. Right? Those were the words he used, what level he was ready to begin his healing journey at. But what was really going on?
What do you think what really went on there? Do you think that it opened up that spirit. And if you're walking taller, like when I'm in shape and I'm walking down the street, you got your shoulders back. It's a powerful feeling, more confidence, standing in line, shoulders back, strong. Do you think that boosted his confidence? Did he go into specifics or not really?
So there's a couple levels that we can approach that at, right? Depending on which pool we want to swim in.
Sure. I'm sure that there's personal
at the
life
highest
stuff.
level,
Yeah.
right? At the highest level, at the spiritual level, D.D. Palmer said chiropractic is about uniting man the spiritual with man the physical. So what changed for this gentleman? We connected his soul and his body. That's why he doesn't want to kill himself anymore. On a physical level, what changed? Well, we have the x-rays to show it. He went from having a reverse curve in his neck, which is not good, to actually having a proper curvature in his neck. And he went from having the top vertebrae in his neck pressing on his brainstem, which the brainstem is the region of the brain that regulates mood and emotion, regulates organ function, hormone balance. He went from having physical pressure against that brainstem,
Gotcha.
which of course was throwing off his physiology, which was throwing off his psychology. And as he corrected those things, his physiology and his psychology followed. But really what flourished? His soul.
Wow. Yeah, that's really, that's great. And a great way also to end this. And I really, really appreciate you again coming here explaining this. It's interesting to me, just in general, how much I didn't know about chiropractic and just in general before I started to go to 100%. And then this has been a great sit down too. So for anyone that's out there, go see Dr. Matt, Dr. Sarah, again, 100% chiropractic, right?
Yes, sir.
Great place. And do you have anything, Mark? Any questions, anything before we bail out of here?
First question, how can I get in?
Oh, come in. Yeah, give us a call.
You guys still doing the Groupons?
Yep. Yeah, we have a Groupon
Groupons.
invitation. We also do a $49 new patient special. So that covers, that's available on Groupon. It's also directly available through our office. So if you call our office, we're located in Rockaway, right by the Rockaway Town Mall. And we'll take care of you. We'll do your first day. That $49 covers first day, the x-rays, the body scan, the next visit where we go through it all with you, adjust you, give you a plan for correction. And then you also even get, on top of that, a free massage that they'll book for you as well.
Cool. And that's all within the first day?
So it would be divided out across a couple visits. So day one, we do the discovery where we find out what's going on and take x-rays. Day two would be your empowerment where we go through that with you and adjust you. And then your third visit would be your massage, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, my friend.
Jeff, hey, thank you.
You did a great job. Thank you. Very informative.
Mark, thank you.
Everyone, thank you for tuning in to the Wave podcast. Remember, www.ridethewave.org to check out our cause, our commitment statement. And if you scroll down at the bottom, all our social media. If you like what you heard, please subscribe. Have a great one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us at the Wave podcast. If you like the content and want to see more, please subscribe to all our social media platforms. They'll be listed below. See you next time.